We'll do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com.
It's a question of taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are get creeping, and you go and buy her flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy, I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out, let you get out. I think we're gonna fall out, so shut your mouth.
Good morning, Cup winners, NUFC Matters, the professionals here, and the final show of the week to whet your appetite about Newcastle United and where to go next with regards to trophies. But we've got one in the bag, Stu, at long last. You were across in the UK for the Carabao Cup final. How was your weekend, mate?
Very drunken. I don't think anyone will be surprised to hear that. But it was described by someone in our group as the best 4 days of his life. And I think that just about sums it up. I'm still trying to let it all sink in that we are cup winners. And it's fantastic that it's happened. We've all said in our lifetime we want it to happen. But I've watched in the last 18 months, if I'd wrote a list 3 years ago, what I'd like to do, it would be to watch Newcastle win the Champions League again. It would be to watch Newcastle win a cup, and it would be to watch Scotland live in an international tournament. And in those 18 months, I never thought I'd see any of them, and I've done all three. So I feel like I've completed football. I really do. I've got to set a new targets of what we need to achieve. But also in that time, Mitch and I watched the Tyson Fury fight with Usyk, the first one. So it's been an amazing 18 months of sport. But I put a tweet out on, I think it might have been Monday when I was sitting in the airport to fly here to Tenerife. And I just, I want more. We've had a taste of it now, and then we get greedy and we want more, but we're capable of more. If you look at the performance, the build-up, for me, when you seen them in the tunnel, that we're not going to get beat. There was laser focus there, and to a man, everyone fulfilled their role. And it wasn't just all lucky Newcastle or fortunate Newcastle that dominated the best team in the country from start to finish. And it was a complete performance. And the 2-1 scoreline really should have been higher in our favour. And I think most Liverpool fans have been quite open about that they were outplayed and outfought on the day. And it was our time. And I managed to get a ticket. I didn't get it until the Saturday night. So that's when I was promised one. And I was thinking, will I get there? Will I not get there? But I was in London anyway. And then I was in an area near Mitch. And I managed to shuffle up next to him because everyone was standing. So to be standing next to him when the goals went in, and I know he's got bruises on his arms to prove it. But there was a big grip, bare grip on him, to celebrate. And then just that moment when the final whistle went, and I think there was a collective gathering of thoughts of everyone in Newcastle end, just let it sink in. We've actually done it, and deservedly so. And as we've mentioned several times, the run that we've got there, I don't think anyone can say we had an easy draw. We beat the best teams in the land to win it, and we did it the hard way, and we did it. It wasn't like, you only beat Bolton or Norwich in the final. We beat the best team. And now that's a statement. And for me, I know it's got adverse publicity, but I thought it was great seeing the chairman with the trophy. It shows an extension of his commitment to us that some people say that isn't there. And the elation on his face, he's got a taste of it, and he understands now what it means to us. And I think it puts to bed the old question that everyone's been asking since the takeover: would you rather win a trophy or get in the Champions League? Well, give me a trophy every single day of the week. And I think anyone who supports Newcastle wouldn't celebrate a Champions League qualification as they did that trophy. And therein tells the difference. We're about trophies. That's what's been labelled at us for a long time as bottlers or underachievers. And now we're the only team in the league that's already qualified for Europe next season. How good's that? So I'm still, as you gather, trying to compute it all. But the fact that we were there and it happened, it'll be memories for life.
Man of the match, Stu, from your perspective?
I listened to the Migos on Friday, and I was standing next to Mitch, as I said, and we both agreed. I thought Tonali dictated the play. He was everywhere. He just seemed to glide across the turf. And I know Dan Burn got it for his goal and the story that goes with it. Again, he had a great game, but they all did. And I think someone like Livramento didn't get as much acclaim, considering that's where we were going to be punished. And Salah had his statistically worst game ever for Liverpool. No shot at goal, no assist, nothing. And that's the worst he's ever played. So that has to be credit to the system that we played and to the tenacity and the skill and ability of Livramento. So I thought he had a fantastic game, and I think Joe Linton was that was just at his power and best. But for me, Tonali was the best player on the pitch for us.
Yeah, certainly, you know, just a great team performance. Lots of comments coming in, as always. Craig, yes, been a bad couple of days for boxing, mate. George Foreman, of course, passing away. Colin Hart, the boxing news writer, has also passed away in the last 24 hours as well. So, yeah, tragedy for the boxing community. 76, George Foreman. I always thought he was a lot older than that, but there we go. As always, this is your show, folks. We'll go with the direction that you want to go in. Scott asks this question. Question for you all. Do you think Isak deserves a better song than Who Put the Ball in the Mackham's Net? Surely they should only be sung when we play the Mackhams. It's very boring. He deserves so much better. Gimme a striker from Sweden never gets sung in the ground, ever. I'm not sure why. I just think for the player, he deserves a much better song. What do you think, Mitch?
It certainly gets sung at the Dubai Mags. Just a staple on the playlist, and everybody bloody joins in. So if it's not happening in the grounds, that's interesting, because it's certainly happening supporters clubs worldwide. I can tell you that. Saw a video of the 550 that were out in Bangkok with the Tyne Mags for the cup final, and they were singing that loud and proud as well. So yeah, he probably does. I think the art of a terrace song is one of those things that seems to have disappeared a little bit along with the atmosphere. I think that's part of the more manufactured atmospheres of ground. I think that's part of the atmosphere being manufactured by what's going on over the tannoy and what's going on pre-match and at half-time. What can you do about it? Don't know. I don't think the singing section would solve it. Singing sections have never, in my opinion, been up to what people claim they would be. I think it's something, maybe as we're just looking at an evolution of football, that it's changed a little bit. But yeah, he probably does deserve something better than that. I do like Gimme a striker from Sweden. I think it's pretty damn energetic and certainly works for the Dubai Mags pre-match. But if it's not happening in the ground, that's interesting.
Yeah, you were nodding away there, Stu, at the start. I mean, really, it's one of those things that you don't go around with song sheets. It's embryonic. It starts on the terraces, and Maybe Gimme 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 is one of those songs that maybe not everyone's as competent as singing. Maybe that's the reason that it doesn't get sung as much, and that's why people have almost like nudged towards this "Who Put the Ball in the Mackham's Net" song.
I don't like it. It's giving the Mackhams credit. I mean, how many people put the ball in their net? And for me, it's something that I've discussed with Mr. on many occasions over many beers. I do think he deserves a better song. And even if we went back in time, if the old attack, could we not change that to Isaac? You know, it's where it's more, for me, it's more manly, less childish than like, you know, who put the ball in the Mackham's net? I mean, who cares? And when we're at Wembley, we shouldn't even be mentioning them. You know, it's for me. You've even got that song that's you could sing. I can't sing, and especially in the condition I'm in this morning. But that you could be singing "Isaac's on fire, your defence is terrified." You know that's seems to be the song that everyone wants to sing. It went down very well in the Euros, etc. But I think he does deserve a more manly chant. Sorry.
Dave, I didn't realise you did that channel. So he says the Gimme 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 chant I had on my channel got 4 million views. That was the aim of my video, was to put words with chants, hoping more would catch on. It's interesting, yeah. I mean, I know there's one or two like Twitter accounts as well who knock up songs, and you know, it is one of those songs I think which could be done better. I love Isaac. It's a good idea as well, but I guess after 10 pints, people will probably struggle to get that out as well.
It's easy to remember the words, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. All right, get your comments in, get your questions in. Michael's one of them who's done that. Hangover's gone, lads. Now we've got the monkey off our backs. Are we saying next stop is minimum 5th in Champions League? I'd say that's the very minimum we should go for. Yeah, Mitch. Champions League is where we should be aiming for. We've got cup finals till the end of the season, haven't we?
We've got now to lose from here. We've got the cup in the bag. We've got a guaranteed European place in the bag, but we want better, and we want to play with the best. And looking at the mood, Dubai Mags have been stalking the lads all over Dubai here this week. There's pictures of them here, there, and everywhere. But the one thing I'll say I picked up from them being over here, from certainly the ones who aren't on international duty, there's an energy, there's a positivity, there's something they can carry into the remainder of the season off the back of that cup win that has the real potential to translate into league form and league position. We've just got now to lose and everything to gain, and we should just treat. If we can go out with every game that we've got left and do exactly what we did last Sunday, make sure we come off the pitch having left nothing on it, that everybody's contributed and everybody's put their shift in, the league table will look after itself. I genuinely believe that. Because what have we got to fear? Nothing. And no one.
Would you agree, Stu? It's, the Champions League chase is on now. It's very congested in that area.
It's ours to lose. If you look, we win the game in hand, we're 4th. So, in theory, the position's in our hands. And I think now we've won the cup. I'll never get sick of saying that, by the way. Now we've won the cup. It's, I think they'll be able to express themselves with a bit more freedom. And it shows to me when they've got a target that they focus on, like they did with the Arsenal semi-finals and they did with the final, they can achieve whatever they want. And it'll be really, I know it sounds corny and obvious, but it's really down to the players how high we finish in this league. And we could finish anywhere from 10th to 2nd, possibly. But what we got to be pushing for is to do the best we can. And if we do the best we can, then we will get that 4th place, I think, not even 5th. I believe internally there's a target to catch Forest. That was mentioned after we beat them by Eddie Howe. The results have went their way and against us since then. So the gap's there, but we need to be in a position to pounce, to capitalise if and when teams above us slip up. But as it stands, if we win all our games, we'll finish 4th. So that's really it. I mean, I'm not stating that we'll win every game that we play from now to the end of the season. As much as I'd like us to, I don't think we will. But not everyone's going to win either. You know, people play each other. What we need to get is a bit of consistency. Show that the hangover from winning the cup has gone, and they are focused. And I think the squad, the mentality within the squad, the belief now that they are an elite team, that should transform itself onto the pitch. And with the right attitude, yeah, I think we can still do it. Because my bet, I said I had £400 at 9-4 on Newcastle to finish in the top 4. So no, my luck will finish 5th, get Champions League, and I'll miss out on the big win. But I still think we'll get 4th. I really do.
Winning those key games, you're right, Paul. Winning the Chelsea game at home, we've got to beat Chelsea. I know Manchester United are out of the running, but you've got to beat Manchester United, Chelsea, but you've also got to beat Aston Villa, and you've got to beat Arsenal. Those are the games you win. I think if you win those kind of games, and it's because of where those games are, not necessarily because I'm saying we're going to overtake Arsenal. Don't think that's going to be possible. But I think beating Arsenal, beating Aston Villa, is a key. It's a key fixture, and when you win those games, it's keeping the run going. Newcastle are capable of putting a run together and getting a run together to finish in that position. And yeah, Roger, I did say 3rd in a cup this season. I got the wrong cup. I said the FA Cup, but yeah, I still think 3rd is possible. It's going to be a push. You're going to need Forest to have a little bit of a blip. But I do think it's possible. I really do think it's possible. Let's get back to your questions. Gordon out for 4 to 6 weeks? Question mark. Hope not, says Roger. I mean, how big a blow is that? Barry Hogan asked that question before losing Gordon. I mean, we are without him anyway for the Brentford game, which is a week on Wednesday, because he's still suspended. So, we don't know the full impact of his injury yet, Mitch. I mean, looked like it was a hip injury, but it's only speculation at the minute. Yeah. Nothing official has come out. And we don't know whether he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So there's been no confirmation at this moment.
Tuchel used the curious word worrying in describing it, but that could mean many things. That could mean I really don't know what it is, but it didn't look good. Hip injuries can be anything from an impact, what they call hip pointer, which is effectively just a massive bruise, and they look horrendous and feel horrendous and massively limit your movement, but you can recover from them within 2 weeks. Whereas if it's muscular or musculoskeletal, that's a different matter. But to me, it looked like it was probably just impact related. So I think it's a case of get him back, get him assessed. We don't have him for the next game anyway, and then see where we're at from there. Everything at the minute is speculation, and we should learn our lesson about speculation. Let it be exactly that. Let's wait until we hear what the actual news is.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's a blow when we're without Lewis Hall and Gordon, Stu. I mean, if it is an injury, and it's going to impact on the rest of the season for him, it's going to be a pity. But he could be back in the next 2 weeks, couldn't he? That's the thing.
That's the thing. He's a quick recoverer as well. But at the same time, Harvey Barnes is a more than able deputy. And it's going to give him a chance to get some consistency and run of games in the team. And then even if he was to come back, let's be positive. Let's say the next game, Brentford, Harvey Barnes scores or assists. Would Gordon come straight back into the team anyway? Or would he put him on the right wing? You've got to be very careful how you manage these players, knowing that as soon as someone comes back, they get rid of the one to replace them. I don't think Gordon's form this season has warranted him to be an automatic choice. His talent deserves it, but he's at the moment he's injured. It's Harvey Barnes' position to lose. And if he can get 4 to 5 games together and score 2 or 3 goals, make a couple of assists, it makes a more compelling case to switch Gordon to the right, where initially he was signed for anyway. So it's not a big loss to the fact that we've got cover. It's not as if we've lost an Isaac or another defender, where we are really down to the bare bones. With that, even before the cup final last week, there was a debate: is it going to be him that's playing there, right? As in Barnes? Is it going to be Willock? Is it going to be Joe Linton out on the left? So touch wood, we're well stocked in that area, and that's the benefit of having a squad. And thankfully, that's one of the strong areas where we've got good replacements. And hopefully next season, they'll be even better.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Transfer window this summer will be an exciting one. Get your questions in. I can see the question that we didn't discuss on Friday is certainly making an impact in the chat today. We will talk about it in due course. I'm going to keep those questions until a little bit later. There's a few other things I want to discuss first. The letters is what I want to discuss next. I love these, and I make no apologies for quickly reading this out. Sean Longstaff, obviously his brother Matty, a former Newcastle United player, penned a letter to his brother after the cup final win. What can I say? From kicking a football around the garden as kids to fighting you in it, haha, to then playing for North Shields, running around Tynemouth Cricket Club in pre-season together, getting to play alongside at under 18 and under 23 for Newcastle before eventually playing alongside you for the first team. Watching you score the 2 goals in the Carabao Cup semi-final at St James's Park that sent us to our first cup final for 24 years. Watching you score against PSG in the Champions League, and now watching you lift a trophy for our boyhood team at Wembley. It's a thing you dream of as a kid, and I can't think of a more deserving brother, son and dad, boyfriend and grandson for this to happen to. This is something you've worked so hard towards, and you're living every Geordie's dream. I don't know a person who deserves it more. Through all the ups and downs that you've gone through to now come out a champion is testament to your mentality and self-belief, which is something I look up to every day as your younger brother. No matter what happens in the future, you've achieved what many couldn't, which is being part of a team that's brought a trophy to Newcastle United. You're a history maker, Sean. You've lifted all of the city and given them a day and night to remember forever. The family are so happy for you, and I know how proud they were to stand in the crowd and watch you walk around Wembley as a winner and share the day with you. We've loved being able to come on the journey with you, and we'll continue to follow you and be your biggest supporters. A special mention must go to the good luck charm, which is the newest member of the family, Brady Longstaff, who got to see his dad lift a trophy at Wembley. We know who knows what the future holds for you, Sean, but I'm so proud to call you my brother, and we'll always look up to you and continue being your biggest supporter along with the rest of the family. Keep being you, being an inspiration to every kid in Newcastle and someone that they can look up to, Matty. Brilliant that. Followed by this one to Lewis Miley from Jamie Miley. Where do I start? From us being little kids kicking a ball about in the garden to watching you lift the Carabao Cup at Wembley, the journey's been full of mixed emotions right from the start. The dedication you've had to put in, but also a big mention to Mum, Dad, Grandad Bryn, Grandad Mick, Nana, and a special mention to Grandma Julie, who we sadly lost 14 years ago, but will always be so close to us. Me, you, Mason and Leighton wouldn't be where we are without them. We've been lucky enough to have each other throughout our years at the academy to keep pushing each other along, and more recently in the last few years being able to share the pitch together in many games, which doesn't happen very often. It was an absolute joy, and you made it look so easy time after time, and it was only right all the hard work and dedication paid off for you. There was no better feeling than seeing the smile on your face when you lifted that trophy into the air, knowing that you've been part of a special group that's won a domestic trophy for our boyhood club for the first time in 70 years. Memories that will last a lifetime. Rewind 2 years ago, and we are walking down Wembley Way for the first time in our lives on our way to a match in 2023's Cup Final. I remember us saying, how good would it be to be part of a group that does win the first trophy in many years? That came true. We're so proud of you, Lou, and hopefully it's the first of many. Keep sticking at it, keep that big smile on your face and being you, and you'll do just fine. As your big brother, it makes me immensely proud seeing everything you're doing and how much of an inspiration you are to the local people of Stanley, but also to the wider community. From your biggest supporter, Jamie. So I make no apology for reading those 2 letters out, lads. You know what? That's what it's all about, isn't it, Mitch? The local lads have done good.
Family in the greater sense of the word, mate. We're talking about the Newcastle United fan base and we're being like one big family. And I think we do forget that sometimes. We argue like family. We have ridiculous, petty little bit of spats between each other about things that actually really don't matter in the greater scheme of things. And yet when we unite as one and come together behind something, we can be a hell of a force to be reckoned with. Just look at the crowd a week ago today. that black and white end with the scarves going. The scarves was a wonderful touch by Seller. It created a bank of black and white. It created an ability to generate an atmosphere with ease, and to drown out the opposition. And that only works if we're all doing it together. And seeing the more personal side of family relationships within an unusual set of circumstances, two sets of brothers who've come through the academy at Newcastle United together. And so it makes a lot of the things, I think, more real and tangible for people about what goes on. They will argue and bicker and squabble like any other brothers do. But the love shown and respect shown to their older brothers by the younger brothers is clear to feel in genuinely honest words. And I think, it's getting dusty in here again. I've been doing this all week. It's been ridiculous. I watched the bloody match cam yesterday morning before I went to work, and I had to have 5 minutes to just pull myself together. Still really understanding and computing everything myself. I spent an evening with the Chelsea lads last night, and they were like, "Why aren't you full of yourself? Why aren't you bouncing around telling me, yeah, this and yeah, that?" And I'm like, well, this is new to me. I haven't had the chance to do this before. So I'll just quietly and pleasantly whip your asses playing pool and sit at the bar and have a drink while we're watching something ridiculous like Moldova against Norway on the telly. And enjoy myself quietly in the corner, comforting in the knowledge that we're actually winners now. And those letters really are, that personal and brave to be shared publicly whenever you open yourself up personally like that. But I think it says a lot about that our club, our community, and our city, that we can do that.
Yeah, Stu, emotional letters, those from the heart as well. And I mean, Matty, and it was a big part of Sean's life, but it was as the Miley brothers are very close as well. All had an involvement with Newcastle as well. So it's nice to hear those letters, isn't it? It reminds us of the letter was at Dan Byrne's dad in the last cup final when he wrote the letter to Dan Byrne, and the club released that.
No, it's the lovely letters. It's like it sometimes allows us to realise these people are human as well, because they get put on a pedestal, and we expect them just to perform like machines. But it shows like the pride in the family and the love in the family, and they come from like a strong family upbringing. And you can imagine that getting put publicly, and everyone like us now just saying how wonderful it is and the lovely words there. But it's sincere. I think that's the most. It was an honest letter, and like I say, representing Newcastle. How proud would you be if it was one of your family? Like whether it be a cousin, a child. It's I think they realise they're in a very, very special position, and for us, we're just in awe, but proud of them as well. The fact that the local lads and they made the breakthrough. There was a little bit at the end of Matty's letter there, which indicated that Sean might be moving. The way I'd listen to that, like whatever the future brings for you. So I think there's an air of acceptance there. But he did win the cup whilst at Newcastle, and if you look at how the 69 team's still revered, these guys have got it all to come. They're now immortal, aren't they? For years and years and years to come, decades to come. No matter how many opportunities and how many trophies we win in the coming years, these were the first. And for someone like Sean and for Louis Miley to be part of that, it'll make it extra special for them. Dan Byrne as well, you can say that all the local lads. And as an extension, you could say Jacob Murphy and Lewis Hall as well. But for the two local lads that have come through the ranks, it'll be extra special for them. And like you say, you always remember the first. And that was our first trophy for such a long time. It might as well have been the first trophy we've won. But for sure, it's not going to be the last. But you'll always remember that one. And I think last Sunday will be very hard to replicate because, like I say, Roger Bannister and stuff like that, you all remember who broke the first 4-minute mile, but who was the second person to do it. But when we go on this success story, there'll be more letters like that. You know, there's players there that aren't from Newcastle that have so much pride and connection with the city. You know, if you look at like Bruno and players like that, it shows that the team's a family as well. You know, and as Mitch said, that sometimes they'll fall out. Sometimes someone doesn't speak to someone else, but ultimately the pride in them representing us is immeasurable with the family. And I thought they were really, really nice letters.
Yeah, outstanding. We've talked a little bit about Dan Burn, of course, over the course of the last week. He's come in for a bit of criticism, Mitch, in one newspaper from somebody, which I found pretty baffling and bizarre. I know you did.
Yeah, Ian Ladyman in the Daily Mail's had a go at him post-England game, saying that the England game showed his limitations. And, the article's a little sideswipe at Tuchel and Tuchel's squad selection, basically, and held Dan Burn up as the reason why to be critical. Yet everywhere else, you're seeing stats saying this is the best debut by a centre-back in England ever. You know, and so why go after Dan Burn like that? Why go after, use him as the stick to beat Tuchel with? Because a particular journalist had his chip on his shoulder about whatever. I don't know what his agenda is. I don't know whether he's upset. I don't know who he supports, whether he's a butthurt Liverpool fan or whether he's a Villa fan wishing that concert got more praise than Burn did. It's just the most bizarre and absolutely out of line with everything else that has been written about Dan Burn this week. It seems quite bizarre to use that. Yes, Brugge's movement troubled Burn more than anybody else, but at the same time, it wasn't enough to say that it was the worst debut of an English centre-back in 20 years. I mean, it's just really bizarre and unnecessary. I might chuck a line out to Craig Hope, because obviously they're at the same newspaper. Let's ask what the bloody crack is there. There's obviously some sort of agenda there. I think it's a way to get at Tuchel personally rather than Burn himself. But I think on the back of the week Dan Burn's had, to read an article like that is really poor. And then I'm choosing my words carefully.
Yeah, I mean, there's his stats, Stu. 153 touches, 99% pass accuracy, 14 passes in the final third, 7 clearances, 3 out of 3 successful long balls, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 2 ball recoveries, and in the words of Squawker, a very solid debut. So, yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a week for him, but yeah, maybe it is just a bit of criticism aimed at the manager rather than Dan Burn.
Well, if you had such a bad game, I don't think Ladyman would be the only one commenting on it. You know, Newcastle are there to be shot at. We know that. They know they like to be critical of anything associated with Newcastle. And I watched some of the game. Well, the first half especially, and he nearly scored, didn't he? And imagine that would have just been the Royal race of all Roy of the Rover stories, wouldn't it? It would have just topped it off. But he looked assured to me, the bit I've seen. And I can't imagine the second half, considering England didn't concede a goal, was he that much worse from the first half that I'd seen? I thought he had a good game. And as I said, if Ladyman's the only one that's saying it, then it has to be, for me, a bit of green-eyed monster, isn't it? A bit of jealousy. Maybe he does support Villa. Maybe he wanted... who was that clown that got injured against us with the funny hair? Mings. Maybe he thinks Mings should be in the team. They all have their little agendas, but single someone out like that, and on his debut, who kept a clean sheet, and look at the stats you've just read out there, Steve. I think bizarre is the right word that Mitch used. It's someone just seeking attention for the sake of it, isn't it?
So aberrant from.
But when you have someone like Foden, who has all the talent in the world and doesn't produce anything for England. And he had another poor game from what I've seen. And he hasn't had anywhere near the scathing criticism that they've just said there about Dan Burn. So it just shows you that there's an agenda and it'll come out more. Because I'm sure if he plays the next game, there'll be another story coming out. You know, it's like sometimes people just wait for certain people to fail and other people can fail constantly and never get mentioned. And that's just the way it is. I think Dan Burn's certainly big enough to not even let that worry him.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, we've avoided it for as long as we can. We'll tackle this now, lads, and have a chat about it now. Paul Patterson says, have the club scored an own goal by having the trophy presentation on the town moor? Surely it would have been better going from the Hilton across the Tyne Bridge and up to St James's Park on Sunday. That's one of the questions. Got a few other people asking the same question. JJ says, lads, what's your thoughts on the town moor events at the weekend? Do you agree? Do you think Liverpool Council or club will place the same restrictions on their fans when they win the league? Jules, I've got to be honest, I'm more in your camp. She says, do we know 100% that the council and police have imposed restrictions? I'm awaiting official updates in due course. So the one thing really, and the reason I avoided it like the plague on Friday, really was because, you know, Newcastle have just won their first major trophy in years. And again, another announcement divides the club. And it didn't start with the Town Moor announcement. Let's get it right. It started with the announcement that the trophy is going to be paraded today at St James's Park between Newcastle United ladies and Sunderland ladies, and that Darren Eales and Bob Moncur are going to hoist the trophy aloft. And people are saying that's bang out of order. It shouldn't be happening. And Gibbo on the show this week even said that he disagreed with it being on display, despite, you know, Bob Moncur being the man, a good friend of his for many years. He didn't think it was right that Bob Moncur should be holding it aloft. He wants to see Bruno holding it aloft. I genuinely don't get where all this is coming from. I really don't. And the Town Moor thing, you know what, from my perspective, I get it. I get it why people would think that an event, or, you know, and they've got to apply for tickets. I can get why it would upset people, but you know what? It's been embarrassing, I think, the meltdown, because the full plans haven't been announced yet. You know, they've got to get there. Maybe there will be a bus going through the outer areas in the city centre. Maybe the Town Moor thing is something additional to them going through the town. But you know what? Until we know the full plans and the full regulations, don't get your knickers in a twist. Sit back and do what me, Mitch and Stu and everybody else has been doing. Enjoy, cure your hangover and sit and just enjoy what we've done. Enjoy the achievement.
Just keep going to make it not kick in yet.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I really,
if it hasn't gone away.
Exactly. I just don't, like, honestly, Mitch, I'll come to you first. I'm not belittling anybody who's upset about this. Far from it. But what I do feel is, you know, that as usual, you know, we're just so good at squabbling with each other as a fan base.
Yeah, we are. And this was very inevitable. And we talked about it privately before, you know, weeks ago. Let's say what happens if we win this thing and how will people react. And we knew that certain things were still there that were going to kick off. Let's cut this down into sections. I've got opinions as well, you know. I still kind of get over the world that we live in, where that seems to say that, well, if you think that, you automatically think X, Y, Z. You can have opinions that differ on different situations with, you know, the right intention. Do I think it's right that it's being lifted at the women's game? It's Newcastle United Cup. They can do what the fuck they want with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's being shared with the Newcastle United family. There's people in that crowd today who would not have got a chance to get to Wembley and see it.
Yeah.
Who would not have got a chance to see the trophy lifted in person. Who might not get a chance to go to the event on the moor and see the trophy in person. Because we don't really know what the plans for that are yet. So is it right that the club want to show it off? Yes. If the ladies had won the FA Cup, the Women's FA Cup, would they show that at the men's game? Too bloody right they would.
No, but they'd have the ladies with them. That's the thing.
Yeah, I get that. But the lads are off. They're either on, you know, international duty, or they're here in Dubai. And they're allowed a holiday after that break. So we can show it off with... I don't care who lifts it up. to be honest with you, as long as it's shown off to the supporters and its celebration of Newcastle United being winners is shared. Now, do I also think it's been done cynically to boost a few numbers at the women's game? Yes. Do I think that's right? No. Do I think some people will use the numbers at the women's game as an agenda to gaslight people that it's a premium product and a more premium product than it genuinely is? Well, I think that's happening with women's football across the entire game at the moment. I think we're being gaslit into believing that it's at levels that it genuinely isn't. We've got to remember, as the league table stands in that women's championship, Newcastle United are the third best club in the North East in terms of league position. And one of those clubs doesn't have a parent professional club. And so, do I think it would be manipulated and misused? Yes, possibly, and I think that's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. But such is life. I was told about a month ago by somebody close to Northumbria Police that, to quote unquote, don't expect an open top bus parade. Now, I ignored that because the guy who told us is a smoggy, and I just thought there was a little bit of bitterness. Perhaps he knew more than he realised. I've done a bit of digging this weekend, and the quote I've been allowed to use, I've got it written down here. Salah's plans for when we won were unlike anything done before, quote unquote. And that's somebody reasonably close to Northumbria Police. So whatever they've got to do and whatever they want to do, just roll with it. Let them do it. This is new to them. It's new to most of us. The only generation it's not new to is effectively my dad's generation. The last ones who really knew what it was like to win.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was in the 50s, because in the 50s, you had 80,000 crammed into St James's Park stand, and in an unsafe way, which to me it beggars my belief that there weren't more people injured in crushes at football matches in the 1950s as we stayed to some of the grounds and the amount of people who'd pack into it. It'd be like the bloody Tokyo Tube, cramming them in. And that's not how the modern world works. And so the modern world works that you want to manage crowds in a more sensible way. Driving an open-top bus through the centre of town would be, quote unquote, and again, this is a quote from somebody close to Northumbria Police, fucking chaos. This is a quote. It's nice to be misty-eyed and wistful for things past, and this is the way we've always done it. Well, the last time we did it was in 1969. That's longer than most of us have been on the planet. So the way that we've always done it isn't for the modern age. Do I agree with them limiting the way to apply for it to sort of season ticket holders and members and things like that? Again, I think the membership scheme's been pretty cynically used by the club in certain ways. And again, comes back to PSR issues and the fans being asked to go back to the well every time a game, which is a little bit poor. But they've got to have a way to do it somehow. And if we don't, again, we don't know this. We don't know if the police and the council have wanted to limit numbers and have a way to control the crowd. But you would think in the modern world that would be so. There's got to be a way to do it, and if that's the best way that they feel that they could do it, then so be it. Whether I agree with it or not, it isn't going to change it. And also us turning our guns on each other and getting upset about whether it's whether the cup's at the women's games, or whether it's whether we've got an open top bus or we've got something different. Let's just enjoy being winners.
Yes. Some people just love to twist on 21.
Really all I'm interested in. It's as new to me as it is to everybody else. Hence why, like I say, last night, they were like, well, why aren't you... You're looking very smug in the corner there, but you're not bouncing around the room and you're not telling me this. And yeah, okay, I'm telling them some of the stories from the weekend, but it was always just with a reassured smile on my face and a confidence, like, yeah, we're winners. It's
Exactly.
new to me. It may not be new to you, but it's new to me. And this whole process is new to everybody connected to Newcastle United. Are they going to get everything right first time? But how the hell?
No, I mean, just a reminder as well that it was only an email to judge what kind of numbers may be interested in going to the town moor. The subsequent sign that's now appeared, look, if they're going to do it next weekend, the council and Newcastle United have to be in some kind of communications to say that. I've seen people suggesting that the new stadium's going to be there now, and this is a test to see whether what the traffic's going to be like going up there. I mean, I've seen all of this kind of stuff going out there. It's just typical Newcastle United social media. Stu has become, it's just, I've deliberately avoided it and not talked about it at all on the show this week. It's just, obviously, it is topical and people in the chat wanted to hear our opinions today, but it's all an argument over nothing. Sean's in the chat. He's saying that he's booked to come over from Dublin. He's not going to see the cup. There's nothing been announced yet, Sean, so I wouldn't panic. You'll see the cup, I'm sure. And like I say, they've got to get to up there. They're not just going to be all going up in their individual cars. I'd be very surprised if they're not getting a bus up there with the trophy, and they'll go around part of Newcastle with it all finishing on the town moor to have a big celebration. That's probably what will happen. But the fact that they haven't got the plans announced yet is probably not helping. But it's not worth having an argument about with other fans online. That's what I'm trying to say to people, Stu.
Well, there's the double question there. The first one I'll cover is the supposed town moor event. For me, it's indicative of the social media era. People are just too quick to criticise without actually thinking it through and seeing both sides. When have Seller ever done a bad show for Newcastle? If you think about it, what they've put it on buildings, they had it above the ground for the Champions League game. You've seen what they did in London, the Cup final weekend. This, I think, would be epic. And you can look back when the Angel of the North was built. It was an eyesore. It's terrible. Now everyone's proud of it. It's a symbol of the North when it was just there to be criticised. And for me, I think the scenes of like a Glastonbury or Nebworth style size crowd on the town moor spilling out over, Nunsmoor and everything else, that will send images around the world. That can help attract new players thinking, is this Newcastle worth going for? I know they've just won a cup, or they're worth, what's the fan base like? And thankfully, they don't go on social media and hear all the infighting just for the sake of infighting. But seeing the scenes like that, and then Seller, I'm sure they will do something exceptional. But also, it could be, there was a certain man who said he would only come back when he felt the time was right. Imagine then now someone like Kevin Keegan on to that stage. He said, now we've got our club back. You don't know what they've got planned. And that's the gist of what I'm saying. People are surmising and wanting to be too quick to criticise. Why don't they just roll with it? And if the council, for safety, of course, the iconic scenes of a bus tour, etc. But see one of the comments said there, the players aren't going to get teleported onto the moor. I'm sure, as you're suggesting there, Steve, I'm of the opinion that there will be a bus tour which will culminate on the town moor. And then the gauging the amount of size, because you have to, it's not just like, okay, turn up if you want. They expect 50,000 and 250,000 turn up. It'll be under priests, and then the dangers, health and safety issues that need to be, fencing needs to be put in control. You don't want any surges in crowd and stuff like that. So it's not an easy thing to do, but I think once it gets done, it'll be something we can all be proud of. And this is why I've kept quiet about it all week. Like, if people want to criticise because of how they want to celebrate winning the trophy, it's our trophy, and they'll celebrate it how they want. And that leads us on to the second one. I think it's wrong. Not it's wrong. It's at the women's game. It's the players that won it should be the ones to raise it in front of the fans first and foremost. And I understand International Week, it's not going to happen. And cynically, it's a commercial decision, isn't it? It gets the gate up for the women's game. But so be it. We, especially on this panel, we've been uber critical of the fact that they haven't been cashing in on opportunities to boost the PSR and stuff like that. So if this brings an extra couple 100,000 into the coffers, then so be it. It'll pay Isaac's wage rise for a couple of weeks, wouldn't it? So we have to look at the benefits of all. The trophy, I'm sure, will stay in St. James's, and then people can pay 20 quid to get the photograph with it. You know, and if you work out, you do that 30 times an hour over a period of days, weeks, and months. Again, it'll generate money, and it'll be a photograph that people will be proud to say, "Yep, that's me with the trophy," or "That's us two with the trophy." That's the family with the trophy. But to parade out the ladies' game is wrong. If the players were there, yes. If all the players were there that represented us last week, then I get it. But I'm not really that bothered, Steve. If they want to put it at the women's game and it boosts the crowd and it helps, then so be it. The main event will be the following week, which looks like will be on the Town Moor. And if people are complaining about it, don't go. They will be in the minority. I think every Newcastle fan in the surrounding region will tune up for that, to be part of it, and then wait till like we live abroad, as you know, we'll see the scenes, and again, that's when the dust will start appearing, and someone's been cutting onions near us and things like that. It's their pride that it'll bring, and let's just wait and see how we deliver it, because Stella don't do bad shows. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing and something that we'll talk about for years.
Yeah, look, it'll be what it is, and you just got to wait and see what the club finally announce. A dry event, Mark. I mean, there's lots of things have to be, boxes have to be ticked and things have to be done to get events on the Town Moor. This don't think this has just happened over the last couple of days as well. This will have been talked about before Newcastle won the cup final. You have to plan these kind of things so far in advance, and security teams will have been up there where they'll have talked about it, and they will know what they want to do. But yeah, look, there's nothing stopping you going to have a drink before you go up there, if that's what you want to do. But lots of things to be taken into consideration when you're putting events on like that, and of course people's health and safety has to be of utmost importance when you're having an event like this. But wait and see what happens, see what's announced. I don't want to get bogged down in this too much. We've had our say. I'm sure you'll have your say in the chat. We'll have a quick ad break back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Clooney, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone 0191 230
4474. An Evening with Steve Howie and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An Evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.tv. An Evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday the 30th of January 2026 and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, available from newcastlelegends.com.
Okay, welcome back to the professionals. Roger asked a great question earlier on. He said, do you think the cup win will change our transfer window plans, Mitch?
I don't think significantly. I think the way that squad's headed and the way that PSR's got was set up for the next window, I think the next window was always going to be a big and important one. And I don't think the cup win changes that one little bit.
Stu?
Well, I think it does, because they'll have certain targets for the positions that they're looking to strengthen in, and I think it'll bolster their belief that they can get the top targets. You know, you come into a cup-winning team, you come into a team hopefully that's qualified for Europe, higher up than the conference, and it makes it a more attractive proposition. So I think they'll be buoyant that they'll be able to get, if they're in for a fight with other top clubs, which you have to be. There's normally an area of acceptance. Oh, well, you know, we're up against Man City or we're up against Liverpool. We can understand why they didn't come to us. That gap's closing, and winning a trophy obviously is the start of it. But if we can cement that with the Champions League football this season, I think it's a major boost for the window to be successful in getting the players they want.
Okay, some good questions coming in. Try and get through all of them. Louis on Twitter said, lads, do you think Joe Linton being injured before the cup final helped? He was a beast in the final, Mitch.
I think because the way we were effectively stripped to our left-hand side, losing Botman, Hall and Gordon, meant we had to go into this game thinking slightly differently. We had to come up with something that not just we hadn't seen before, but certainly Liverpool hadn't seen before and probably couldn't plan for. Having Joe Linton a little fresher because he'd had a few games off probably didn't hurt because he covered nearly every bloody blade of grass. But equally, that could work against you because you could technically have a rusty player coming into a final and you don't want that either. So for me, I think it probably did help a little bit, but I think there was a number of circumstances helped with that.
Joe Linton being injured and coming back as he did. I mean, his form just got better and better towards the final, and he was a beast in the final, as Roger says, Stu.
He certainly was. I don't think he'd want to be injured, but give him a target to focus on and get those couple of games under his belt for sure helped. You know, if that had been his first game back, I don't think we would have seen the type of performance he delivered. But saying that, he had a nightmare for Brazil the other night. He was given a 4 out of 10 and got a Dan Burton style roasting off the media of more than one Brazilian journalist. So he can be fit and have bad games and fit and have good games. Thankfully for us, he had a good game for us. But is it being injured? Is it a good thing? I don't think any player would say it's a good thing to be injured. But I get where the question's coming from because he's had a little bit of a rest and then come back stronger for it. But saying someone's injured is a good thing. I can't get along with that.
800 watching live this morning. Sorry for those of you who are taken by surprise. Stu's got an engagement with a bartender this afternoon, so we had to go out early today. It suited me, to be honest, as well. 500 of you watching on Twitter. Jump over from there onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters, hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Denise says, spin on the question, lads. Do you think we are more attractive to players now that we've won a cup? I do, she says.
Much easier sell, isn't it? Come and be winners.
Yeah, that's how I explained it, wasn't it? I think it does make it more an attractive proposition. And you've seen the celebrations, and which player wouldn't think, I wouldn't mind playing for that club? Look at them fans. And this event next week could be, strangely, another feather in the cap saying, I want to be at that club. Yeah. Look at the camaraderie with the players. Look how they've improved.
I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
I think, if you look, one of the things universally that's come across, even with those who are having to rock in the corner and console themselves like Paul Scholes, they can't put a foot wrong about the image of the fans. And even people like Oliver Holt, who's had a go typically, and Miguel Delaney expectedly, can't fault the fan base and can't fault the atmosphere around it all. And I think you're right, as a footballer, who wouldn't want to look at that and say, hey, I want a piece of that?
What's your views on the disallowed goal, Mitch, says Dean?
It boils down to the question, was Brewer interfering with the play or not? I've seen them given and I've seen them not. They're the ones that you kind of hope get given, but you expect in modern game might not be. Offside was a much more simple rule before we had all the complications introduced to it. Still go back to Cloughie. If you're not interfering with a player, what the hell are you doing on the pitch? It's difficult not to subscribe to that because it makes it a lot clearer for everybody. The way we're having to look at offsides these days with minutiae. I saw a player given offside facing away from goal the other day because his foot happened to be further back. Well, surely he's not getting an advantage when he's facing away from goal. But, how do you interpret these things? It's very, very difficult. So, they're ones that sometimes get given and sometimes don't. I think the minute you're in and around the keeper, whether you've interfered with his ability to see the ball or not, that'll be questioned. And I think that's probably what it was ruled off for ultimately.
Yes, Stu, your views on that offside?
Well, considering I had 50 quid at 40-1 for Newcastle to win 3-1, then my opinions are a bit stronger than what Mitch's were just there. It was a perfectly good goal. Now, well, obviously at the time we didn't know it finished 2-1 to make it 3-1. But again, I'll just agree with what Mitch said. If it'd been given, then you can accept it, and you can accept it wasn't given. We can be generous because it didn't affect the result. Had that been a critical decision where it went against us, then I'm sure the scrutiny would be a lot higher. But for me, the keeper makes the save. You can make a case for both sides. The keeper makes the save, so you obviously seen the ball. But yeah, Bruno was standing in front of him, but the guy who scored it wasn't offside, was he? So, like I said, for me, when it took, was it 7 minutes? It felt like a lifetime, didn't it? They were searching, and you can sort of tell that they're trying to find a way to disallow it. And that's not like an anti-Newcastle paranoia thing. It just seemed that they were going out of the way to disallow it, to justify them calling the decision back. And eventually, right, okay, we'll settle for that and we'll give that's the reason we're not going to give the goal. But it didn't make much difference, did it? So
no,
it's about bank balance. It's about bank balance. But
yes, I did like this as well, by the way. This was from Phil Scott. I meant to show it last week. This went on his parcel shelf in the car. It was his first ever scarf, 1956, Phil. It definitely brought us some luck, mate. So you'll have to take that to a future game, mate. Absolutely fantastic. And thanks. I've had a few of these sent in as well, which didn't make tweet of the week. It was sent too late. But missing person, Mo Salah, last seen in Tino Livramento's pocket. Very good. Lots of good stuff coming in. Lots of positive stuff coming in this week. So thank you to everybody for sending that over. Let's get through another couple of questions if we can. Sutty said, do you guys think we've got European football in the bag for next season? We will see some new sponsors coming in sooner rather than later. I was wondering when that question would get asked, to be honest, Mitch.
Again, I think you probably find, let's wait and see which competition we're actually in. Because again, we're an easier sell as a Champions League team than we are as a Europa Conference League team. So I think we'll wait a bit longer for that.
Yeah, I think it'll allow us to get more for the sponsors, if that makes sense.
Yes.
As Mitch rightly says, let's see which competition we end up in Europe next year. And there's more justification of an increase for the sponsors. There'll be less scrutiny from the Premier League because that we are cup winners. They can't keep saying, well, you haven't done this, you haven't done this, and you haven't done this. If we're in the Champions League and we're currently cup winners, why can't we be asking for the same, or at least to be closer to what some of the supposed big clubs have been allowed to sponsor themselves with? So, or obtain sponsorships from companies that have, shall we say, not nice ties with certain organisations, but it doesn't seem to matter because their team play in red. So, as far as I'm concerned, the sponsors will increase, and I'm reckoning before, I would say, Ramadan finishes next week, so possibly the week after. It could be the earliest you'll hear anything regarding money coming in or new stadiums. It's simply because of Ramadan. I think the owners might even, is it next Saturday? I think Ramadan finishes next Saturday. That's when the parade is, isn't it? Next Saturday.
Yeah.
I think that's the last day of Ramadan. So that could be
estimated to be, yeah.
Yeah, so that could be like a special announcement on the stage, unveiling a new stadium. That's just a suggestion, like hypothetical. But it seems to tie in regarding the sponsors, getting back to the original question. Of course, it puts us in a stronger bartering position and to be able to get more money coming in commercially. So
you preempted Simon's question there. Do the lads think the club will announce the new stadium next weekend? Celebrations could well do. You never know. James Slater says, question for the professionals. How likely do they think that Mitchell will be using League One in France for transfers this summer? Monaco have got 2 or 3 top quality players in wide positions with Champions League experience. I mean, yeah, look, he's going to use his loaf, isn't he? I mean, this Mitchell was sought after. Mitch, you championed him. Stu talked a lot about him and championed him. Said he was the right man for the job. He's had plenty of time, hasn't he, over the last couple of windows, just to have a look, get his feet under the table, and he'll be bringing in quality. He's been concentrating on bringing young players in recently.
Liga 1's definitely a league he knows very, very well, and he's probably got a very big little black book on that league, and it's a league we have bought well from in the past, but we've also not bought so well from in the past. It's a very, very unpredictable league to know how those players will step up in the Premier League. You've got to, be sure of a lot more than the players' raw ability. And some of the players that are able to cope with the Premiership aren't necessarily the ones I think you would expect to, and vice versa. But you would hope in this day and age, everything's very data-driven, and that will have, a lot of information on the players, both technically and personally. Liga 1, I think next season could be where value was had, because I believe they've still got issues with their television deal. They've still got issues with sponsorships of one form or another, because people feel bullied by Paris Saint-Germain and their owners. And so it could be it also seems to be a league where many clubs haven't been run particularly well over the last 10 years. And so there are clubs that definitely will be needing to fill their own PSR coffers. And so there could be bargains to be had, but that seems to be every year. The Bundesliga is also another one that seems to be sort of equalising a little bit, that they're relying more on their academies to bring players through and sell on to other European teams. So I think it'll be very interesting in terms of who we go for from those divisions. But my question would be, are they the finished articles to drop straight into a Premier League team, or do we need to look elsewhere for those? Because I think that's what we also need to be looking in terms of, we need to be looking at putting players in who you could parachute into that side and say, right, they're going to hit the ground running and they could play from day one. Do we always get that from Liga 1? I don't think so.
We're going to cast our net across foreign shores, do you think, Stu, in the summer?
I'm sure it's more than one league that's been looked at. They've had several scouting meetings, and obviously the intentions are to cast the net as wide as possible. So if we're saying someone from France, it's because they're good enough to play for Newcastle United, not because Paul Mitchell used to work there, you know. So these connections are wide, and as you said, I did big him up before he got the job, and this really will be his time to shine, and he does it in tandem with Eddie Howe. Look, this is the type of player we need, and it won't just be like his ability; he'll be the person's character as well. And you see how tight that squad is. It has to be someone that's going to come in, fit in with it, and not try and rock the boat too much. So it's probably a smaller. Although you cast the net wide, it's really a small number of players that can actually improve Newcastle and fit the bill with the character side as well. So I'm confident we'll have a very successful window, but I'm not going to put any numbers down this time.
No, probably best not to. We'll have a whole summer of that. Lots of good questions. I am trying to get through as many as I can. John Askew says, do you think the Cup success will act as a catalyst for future success? The momentum might give us a sniff of the title earlier than expected. Any thoughts? I mean, they always say when you win your first one, it's the hardest and the rest follow. Mitch, do you think we're going to go on a bit of a Man City kind of run now?
We have an evolution as a club to make to be permanently of the winning mindset, and that's as from a playing perspective, from a ownership and managerial perspective, and from a fan base perspective, and we're all still learning on the job. This week has been an interesting part of the learning curve, and a steeper one than I think some people realised, and hence why it's almost like we're undergoing a change, and a change for the better, but change always rattles people, and it always brings a degree of uncertainty, even when it's changed for the better. In a word, yes, this could open the floodgates, because every single one of those players is going to want more of that. As a fan base, why we care so much is because we want more of this. I would rather have this to be my permanent mindset than the one of 10 years ago, that's for sure. And so, and again, if anybody doesn't want that, you're off your bloody nuts.
What's your thoughts?
I just cast your mind back to the short video that Mitch did before the cup final, before the Patriots had their dominance and things like that. It has to start somewhere. You've got to win one trophy to win a second, to win a third, to win a fourth. And we've done it. So we're in a position now where we can use it as the catalyst. It can be the springboard, but they have to understand the hard work that's went into there. And we have been very hot and cold this season. You know, for every Liverpool Cup final performance, there was a Brighton at home or a Bournemouth at home, or, you know, and we've got Brentford coming up next, you know, so that's when we need to start saying, yes, we like it. We really love the taste of this winning thing, but they have to understand the hard work that goes into it to actually get there. And I think they're reasonably sound with that as a group. They understand, and quite rightly, the celebrations would have went long into the night for the players that were remaining there. But do they want it again? Of course they'll want it again. And I think there's a acceptance that some players won't be there. But this is what we've been waiting for. When who we do bring in comes in at the top end of the squad, not the bottom end of the squad, and the strength gets bigger. And whichever European competition we're in next season, we're going to need a bigger squad anyway. Especially if it's something like the Conference League, the amount of games that gets played there. So you'll need a squad to be able to manage that as well. So for me, it's the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last. I did say we'll win the league in 2027, didn't I? So 2 years to go, but maybe we can sneak an FA Cup win or a European trophy before we get to that stage as well. But there's players there that really, really want it. I think we've got the best three midfield as a unit in the league when they're all on form, and I don't think there's another midfield trio that can match them. And we know we've got the one, if not the best striker in the world. And these people need to be complemented with additional quality. And I'm sure that's for all the reasons that we've mentioned on this show today, with the new sponsors, with the fact that we're cup winners, with the fact that we're going to entice people with European football. There's no reason now. All the components are in place for us to keep improving. And if we keep improving, we'll keep winning trophies. We should have to get used to it as a fan base that we are going to be successful.
Tom Dixon asks where we think Newcastle will finish in the league. He thinks we'll finish above Man City. I think we'll finish fourth, Tom. My prediction at the start of the season was third. Like I said, on the Three's a Crowd podcast earlier today, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, it's 7 points between us and Nottingham Forest. I know we've got a game in hand, but Forest have just done a Leicester, haven't they, without winning the league. They just don't look as if they're going to slip up. They don't look as if they are. But you never know. Third's still possible. I'll say comfortably, I think we'll finish fourth. I do think we'll finish fourth. I think other teams will chop away at each other. But we've got to beat those teams around us. That's the key. Winning those games, starting with Brentford. Brentford are obviously out of the European spaces at the moment. But beating Brentford, beating Aston Villa is very important. Beating Manchester United is an important one as well. But you just beat those teams in and around you. That's the key. But I think fourth is where we'll finish, Mitch.
We need to go on one of those little runs again. As simple as that. Once we get onto a run like that, it's all very much in our own hands, and certainly the mood picked up on the players over here from the Dubai Mags who've been around them is that they're in the mood to go on a run like that. That they're coming back with a real spring in their step, as you would expect, lifting a cup. But I don't think there's going to be any after the Lord's May show from them. I think we're going to find that they don't leave anything out there from here. And that's maybe the catalyst we've needed all season, because as we've mentioned this time and again, the difference between premium Newcastle United and bargain basement Newcastle United this season's been huge. And that's as much a mentality thing as anything else, if you ask me. But it's in our own hands. We've got a game in hand, and that closes things to Forest down on 4. And at 3 points for a win, that's not a huge gap at all.
Yeah, Stu, where do you think we'll finish?
The teams that you mentioned there, Steve, like the games that we've got left, like the Arsenal away, Chelsea at home, Man United home, Villa away. I'm not worried about those games because I know the players will be up for it and focused. It's the other games, it's the Brentfords, the Crystal Palaces, and in teams like that where we are expected to win. That's where we seem to trip ourselves up. And then that comes down to the same mentality as they had last week. I know it's very difficult to replicate that every week, but they know what they're capable of. They've shown that they can beat the best, and now they just have to beat the rest. To sound very coy and phrasy and cheesy, but they have to start beating the teams that they're expected to beat on a more regular basis, and that just comes with playing with the same intensity as they do when they're playing against the so-called top teams.
Yeah, a 10-game run would be very welcome, says John. Morning, mate. Rob, morning as well. Our designer says, I think we will finish fourth as well. However, I'm hoping players don't feel that their season's peaked and they take the foot off the gas. Yvonne says, we don't need 10 more distractions. The boys need to be focused on Champions League placings. That's what PIF will demand. Do the lads have any thoughts on the talk with Dejan Huijsen at Bournemouth? 50 million release clause with Premier League experience, but in demand and wants to go to Spain. I'll tie that one in, I guess, with question as well from Sean, who says, do you think we'll look at free agents this summer as well as purchasing? Angel Gomez, Walker Peters, David et al. Would be great additions. Just more transfer talk. It's a bit early. We're only in March, but people are already starting to cast an eye over that, Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's is an interesting one because he went to Bournemouth from Juventus and he's had a superb season, but one superb season doesn't mean everything. There's still a degree of risk there given his age and his experience or lack of. But he's the kind of player we should be looking at, I think. In terms of free agents and things like that. I think that's something we've been poor at Newcastle United for the last few years. And I think, again, I remember when Mitchell come in and criticised the recruitment policies. I think that's something we haven't been able to take advantage of very well. I think we've missed out on some real potential free agent signings. They come with a different PSR burden. But if they can turn around and sell them on quickly, like we've done with Lloyd Kelly and Juventus, and that helps, bolster the PSR coffers, I'm all for it. I certainly think we'll have a much broader scope on the transfer market than we've had before. I think we'll see, because I think stuff dropping into place ahead of the next window is really significant. And let's see where we are in the league first.
Yeah. What about being linked with that Bournemouth player, Stu?
Well, he's had a great season, and it is a 50 million release clause, so it's not as if you're going to be getting involved in a bidding war. That's the price on the ticket. But I don't think Newcastle will be the only team that want to pay it. And as I said, although he's raised in Holland, he is Spanish. And if Barcelona or Real Madrid come calling and put the money down, then I think it's only natural to expect that's where he'd be good. He's also been linked with Liverpool. He's been linked with like nearly all the top teams. But the reason for that, he's proven to be an exceptional player. Would I like him at Newcastle? Yeah, if Eddie Howe thinks he's good enough for us and would fit in the team well, then yes. But I'm of the impression he plays left centre back, doesn't he? So if we were chasing him, then that really has to cast doubts against Botman. But I think Botman, for me, once he returns and fit, he's one of the first names on the team sheet, and he will be the centre defence linchpin going forward for this new year of success that we're talking about. So it'll be Botman plus one other. For as good a season Dan Burns had, he can't keep producing that every single year. But what a great squad player to have going into next season. But the Angel Gomez, something that we mentioned months ago, that his contract was going to be up. He had his little flirtation with the England squad last summer, didn't he? And there was a big buzz about it. Would he come to play second fiddle to our three midfielders? That's the position we're in now. I think we've got to be looking to bringing people in who are going to start, and that's where we need that strength. Whether that be a goalkeeper, whether that be right-sided centre half, whether that be right wing, these are the priorities that we need to be going for first. And if it means putting the money down, then we need to put the money down as quick as possible. Because if it gets into a bidding war, our PSR leeway is not going to be as much as other teams. So I think this window is going to be very, very critical in how quickly Paul Mitchell works and manoeuvres. And I reckon there'll be a big signing before the June 30th cutoff, because I think they've been studying other teams' limitations with PSR and thinking, right, we can help you out here, you help us. See, Denise said there about Mbemo. I think he'd be he's the type of player that has still got a ceiling. He's not reached the best he can. He's 24 years old, so he'd be coming to us in his prime. So someone like him, I think, would be a fantastic player for Newcastle. But it's not our decision, and I'm sure the guys that have got the decisions to make will make the right ones, because they all get a buzz off the success as well. It's not just us as fans; it's their professional pride, their source of we've achieved something. And I don't think there's been many stones left unturned in who they're going to sign this summer. And whatever happens, by the end of it, we'll be in a better position.
We always get the big questions on here. Jopper Donny says, why don't Stu and Mitch have better tans?
It's quite obvious. Well, first of all, there's not many open boards, but living in Bahrain, it's been winter as it has in the UK, but obviously a few degrees warmer. That's even when I've been going for walks, it's been cloudy, it's been windy, etc. But once I get back next week, it'll be I'll get a good tan for the summer, because it creeps up to over 50 degrees. And walking in that for over an hour every morning, it'll certainly give us a suntan.
Mitch, why don't you have a good tan?
Spend most of your time out here running from AC to AC. Even the bus stops have got AC if you're walking and you need a pause for a little bit. You know, I think people have no concept sometimes about how actually hot it gets out here. And sometimes the last thing you want to do is stand in the bloody thing.
Always in the pub, says Denise. There's no sun in bars, says Dave. You've got a reputation, you two.
Probably deserved.
Tom Dixon says, when the transfer window comes around, would you keep Barnes or let him move on, Mitch?
Keep him.
Keep him, yeah.
We need the depth. And, you know, in terms of what he did at the weekend, he showed what he can do. We just need to see that more often. He needs to be laying a marker down at his age and saying, okay, Eddie, drop us.
Yeah. And you keep him as well, Stu?
Yeah, definitely. It's the type of player that even if he isn't starting, you want to be in the under, like the 11 that's under the start 11, as in the rest of the squad. He is a top quality player. Now, would you have him playing every single week? No, but in instances like we've got now, when the man in that position, you don't feel as worried. Someone like Harvey Barnes is coming in, rather than hoping, you know, or expecting a better performance of someone who doesn't have the talent. Harvey Barnes is a talented footballer. For me, he needs to stay for us.
End of a wonderful week on NUFC Matters, a trophy winning week. They don't come along very often. Let's hope it's the start of a trophy deluge at Newcastle United. Thanks to everybody in the chat for this week. It's been great. It's been a pleasure. Voice has gradually come back to almost normal, slowly getting there. Back with the fans forum Monday night, 5:45, slightly earlier tomorrow night. And thanks to Stu and Mitch today. Take care, lads. Enjoy your.
Just one thing, Steve. Just one thing. Just before we go, as you know, I'm over here in Tenerife for me children. Son supports Tottenham, which I've said, look, it's just a phase you're going through. You need to start coming back to Newcastle again. He's still putting up a bit of a resistance. So I asked him if he knows someone called Sean Neve. And he says, no. I says, are you sure? He went, yes. And he says, who is he? And I said, he's got more winners' medals in the League Cup than your Harry Kane hero has. That's who Sean Neve is, 17-year-old. So it's just another one of these little stories that makes us smile. And as Mitch said, we can sit there smugly, but the amount of genuine congratulations I've had from fans from other clubs around the world. I've just had a missed call there while I was doing this of someone who supports West Ham wants us to go out with them this afternoon. And I was out with Leeds fans yesterday, Middlesbrough fans even, Rangers fans. Everyone seems to be genuinely happy for us as a fan base that we've won the Cup. Let's see if they're still happy when we win like 5 or 6 of them. But at the moment, everyone's happy for us.
Yeah. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. People, whatever you're doing, see you tomorrow at 5:45. Take care, lads.
Cheers everyone.